Hey guys, red and black greetings. This is Flamengo. Welcome to the Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel. If you're just arriving, I invite you to follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, I invite you to subscribe down below, turn on notifications by clicking the bell, and leave a cool like on the video. We're joining you after the Placar Alberto show on Placar's YouTube channel. Please subscribe there too. You know, we do the show daily from Monday to Friday at 6 in the evening, sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later, but it's always in the evening. And look, I'm here, man, to bring you spectacular news, important news, the best news of the week, the best possible news about Flamengo. Bringing you this very important information. Regarding today's training, Flamengo has already finished preparing for the match against Racing, the most important game of the season so far, the Libertadores semifinal, an even more important game than Flamengo versus Palmeiras in the Brazilian Championship. And we know how much Flamengo needs this win in the Copa Libertadores da America. Yeah, Flamengo needs a good win, right, to get a good result. Zico, we're going to bring Zico here to talk about it. Well, let's go. We have here some situations here for us to talk to you who are following us. That, man, Flamengo is having this problem, this mess with Libra, okay? And we have here a twist, an important situation for us to bring up. An important update regarding Libra. Universal Online reported that the Rio court decided to partially grant Libra's request and unblock part of the money in the dispute with Flamengo. Yeah, but both parties, the club and the league, they are also confirming that information we brought, maybe adding a few more details. There are very different versions about which part of the funds should remain withheld and which will be released. So the tug of war between Flamengo and Libra in court continues, right? Yeah, there's disagreement on the amounts. The numbers differ significantly. The Rio de Janeiro Court of Justice will decide how much money stays deposited in court. The total gross amount withheld is 83 million reais, not 77. There has not been a release yet. This amount refers to the second installment of the audience criterion, which represents 30% of the total contract between Globo and Libra. The dispute revolves around this criterion. Flamengo claims that Libra approved a formula with a gap and then went back to a standard distribution pattern without reading. No, without a unanimous vote. We've already discussed unanimity. Libra says everyone's approval is needed for it to be the criterion. Yeah, there wasn't a record showing the approval of a complete rule. The judge from Rio, Lucia Helena do Passo, initially withheld all the money when she granted an injunction to Flamengo. Libra and Grêmio requested the release of the portion that wasn't in dispute. Libra claims that the difference is only 1.6 million reais. That's what Libra claims. A new disagreement then between Flamengo and Libra, a new mess between Flamengo and Libra, a new battle. Okay? For this, the league compares its Scenario 1 criteria, audience per household, with Scenario 4, audience per household plus registration. This Scenario 4 was the middle ground proposed by both parties, and Flamengo, between these two scenarios, the amount Flamengo is thinking of is 18 million, okay, which would be divided into 3 installments. Scenario 4 would have been like an agreement by Flamengo to be applied in 2025 as long as the change to 2025 happened. But the proposal Flamengo wanted to adopt wasn't that formula. It was Scenario 6, using the pay-per-view registration, okay? So they tried to tell the court that it's Scenario 4 when actually it's Scenario 6, okay, from the discussions. By this criterion, the club would earn 53 million more than the Libra proposal. It would increase from 200 million to 250 million. The club initially understands that 50 million should be withheld as the difference. This would be divided into 3 installments. That is, the proportional amount would have to be calculated. But Flamengo still calculates the total amount, which it will ask the court to keep blocked. The club still has a few days to respond in court, okay? So Flamengo still has time to respond. based on the club's position. The judge will have to decide who is more correct in their calculations regarding the disputed amount and therefore what will be followed and what will remain withheld. Okay? Yeah. The rest of the money will be released to the 9 Libra clubs. The net amount would be 77 million, with the gross amount being 83 million. Okay? The decision about who is actually right in the dispute will be made in the arbitration court. The process has begun at Flamengo's request. So yeah, even if it decides to keep a larger amount blocked, the Flamengo might not be able to get that, might not win that claim. It's likely to follow Flamengo's position since Flamengo believes it has the right and that must be judged. If you release that, Flamengo won't see that amount again. That's the problem. Clubs spend but don't even pay the player. Imagine how much they'll get from television and think they're right, so they'll never pay, right? Yeah, and the truth is, if the judge does that, if the appellate judge does that, the clubs will never pay Flamengo, mark my words. If this appellate judge does that, the clubs will never pay Flamengos, okay? She has the power to decide whether Flamengo gets screwed over or not, to be messed with, to take a huge loss. Flamengo's loss is in her hands. That's it. The court has to take the following into consideration. I can cause a huge loss because these clubs already don't pay anyone. Many clubs don't pay for signings, and so transfers are a mess. Damn, it's messed up. So Flamengo is there at the National Dispute Resolution Chamber against Inter. Yeah. Corinthians, there are a bunch of teams there. Oh, they're not in the same group as Flamengo. It doesn't matter. Brazilian clubs, as usual, have already been making deals and haven't been sticking to the agreements, the contracts, the payments. Flamengo finished preparations Tuesday at Ninho do Urubu to face Racing. The match is Wednesday at 9:30 post-meridian at Maracanã for the Libertadores semi-final. Felipe Luis hopes to have Leo Ortiz, who is recovering from a strain in his right ankle and will be reevaluated before the game. With a good chance of being among the listed players, if confirmed, the defender should pair up with Leo Pereira. Yeah. So Leo Ortiz, there are even photos, right? Photos that Flamengo released of Leo Ortiz jumping, arriving on the field, training on the pitch. Okay, I'll also bring here Globo Esporte's version. Yeah. As for Everton Cebolinha, he's definitely out due to a hip muscle injury and is expected to return in 3 weeks. The return match will be next week in Argentina, so Everton Cebolinha is also out, okay? Everton Cebolinha is also out of the return match against Racing. He was just starting to play well again, right? No, he came in and played well in the match, but he got injured again. It's crazy. So here it is. Look, the news that came out here in Zico discusses this match between Flamengo and Racing. Yeah, we also have it here. It came out here. You have another thing to talk to you about, which is Flamengo, a Globo Esporte, right? Confirming here how Flamengo should come. Look at this. The goal against Racing this Wednesday is to gain a significant advantage in the first leg of the semifinal so they don't take any risks next week in Buenos Aires. He should bet on the lineup featuring the trio that contributed the most goals this season. Felipe Luis shouldn't alter the attack. He should keep it as is. The team with top performing players like Arrascaeta, Luis Araujo, and Pedro, right? So Luis Araujo didn't score in the last game, but he had scored in the previous one. So we have here Arrascaeta with 35 contributions, 20 goals and 15 assists. Pedro, 22 contributions, 15 goals and 7 assists. Luis Araujo, 20 contributions, 12 goals and 8 assists. That is just talking about them here. We have 77 direct goal contributions, okay? This trio here, okay? They have 77 direct goal contributions. This trio is amazing, man. Man, these guys are the starters, no doubt about it. They're the starters. There's no way around it. Say whatever you want, but Felipe has to understand that, yeah, Pedro and Luis Araujo are starters. Arrascaeta, he already knows that, right? Abel Braga was the one who didn't know. Well, so we've already mentioned that Flamengo's lineup might include, Felipe might include Leo Ortiz in the lineup he put together for part of the activity with the group, okay? He only did part of the group activity, not the whole thing, so we can provide accurate information. He didn't participate in the whole training. He did part of the activity with the group, which creates this situation where he needs to be evaluated before the game, okay? But there's a chance he could play in the match against Racing, this first leg of the Libertadores, okay? He showed up well. He's been training partially. Look, the image that from Gilvan de Souza, from our dear Gilvan de Souza, okay? It shows him arriving, jumping even. Look at that. Look at this. Look at that. Look, that's Leo Ortiz right there. He's jumping during Flamengo's training. Look at that. With cleats on, right? Cleats with studs on, with cleats jumping. This image is very important. The player is actually training there. That's great news. That's spectacular news about Leo Ortiz arriving at training, right? All happy and jumping. A guy who's injured wouldn't be jumping like that, right, guys? Flamengo still has a chance to sign Danilo. We'll bring you more information early tomorrow on game day. We'll be up early bringing you everything. But the reality is that Flamengo will also bring you information about the visiting team, the team from Argentina, which is coming with the support of many Argentine fans. We'll bring all of that to you. Yeah. We also have something important to share with you here. Look, it's Zico, right? And for me, that's man, Zico's involvement with Flamengo, his closeness to the current management. I always preferred playing the first game at home because getting a result there puts the pressure on the other team. And it's bigger, right? You end up obligated to win and score a set number of goals. That was our issue against Estudiante. At the moment when we had to twist the knife to score 3 or 4 goals, it wasn't done. That's what playing at home is for, okay? So, yeah, when you have a chance in the game, total control, and you waste it with one extra touch and all that, right? It's important, man. You always have to have a, look, when you stick the knife in, stick it in and twist it, okay? Yeah, if you stick it in and pull it out, he might grab the gun and kill you, right? Zico finished it, right? He says Coach Carlos Froner used to say that. So Zico knows a lot, right, man? Zico knows a lot about Flamengo, and he's showing that he's really concerned that Flamengo has to get the result, but he prefers really this first game at home. Look here. We had the Pilhado Thiago Asmar. He was talking about Pedro's call-up. I'm going to follow now what Pilhado said. He commented on the possibility, right? Pedro's call-up. Let's see.
Pedro's name exactly is once again being talked about a lot behind the scenes of the Brazilian national team, okay? He's a natural finisher. He's a guy who's getting back to his best form.
Deserved, right?
After a serious injury. It's important to clarify that. And about all that controversy with Felipe Luis, it's good that it served as motivation for Pedro. The guy didn't use it as an excuse to slack off or pout. He used it to get back to his best form, to train, to dedicate himself, returning as Flamengo's starter and earning a spot on Brazil's national team. To compare with Pedro there, I would also put Marcos Leonardo, okay? I was just in Saudi Arabia.
Caio Jorge, right?
6 goals in 12 games already this season. That's after the Super Club World Cup, where he did really well. He's a great number 9. And Vampeta himself always said he would call up Marcos Leonardo for the Brazilian national team. So those are 2 names that I think are definitely competing to be options for the number 9 spot on the Brazilian national team. So Pedro and Marcos Leonardo.
That's it. I agree with Thiago Asma, right? And I think that Pedro has it today. There's also Caio Jorge, right? There's Caio Jorge. Now, Thiago has to stay alert with this thing, right? Since it's a Federación Internacional de Fútbol Association date, Flamengo plays Sport at Arena Pernambuco on the 15th, the same day as the Senegal game in London, right? So it's tough for Flamengo, right, to lose Pedro and other players. That really complicates things. The Brazilian Football Confederation should have scheduled the sport game on a Federação Internacional de Futebol Association date without any call-ups, but they never would, right? Feels like it's all meant to hurt us. Unbelievable. That's it. Please follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, subscribe below. Enable the bell notification and like the video. Thanks for your company. Greetings, Rubro Negras. This is Flamengo. Thanks.